Hello everyone, my name is Pat. Welcome to my channel. Today I will be talking about all the books that I read in April. So I read a total of 15 books for this month. I think I have 2 manhwas included. The first one is a Population series by Elizabeth Stephens. So the first one is A Lord of Population. I rated this one 3 stars. And then the second book is Monster in the Oasis. I rated this one 3 stars as well. And Immortal with Scars, the third book, I rated 4.25 stars. So I believe that the first book, The Lord of Population, is the combination of the first 2 books that was initially released for this series, and then Monster in the Oasis is the second and the third book that was initially released. So the first book was actually pretty long. It's about 500 pages because it's a combination of 2 books. But starting the book, there were a few things about the writing that I wasn't a fan of, like the writing choices that were made. It reminds me a lot of like around a 2010s style of writing and style of narrative, especially because this is a dystopian fantasy alien series, so it kind of takes that kind of style of writing. I can't really describe it other than the style during that time. It's very dark, it's very gory because it is survival. Essentially, the state of the world is that these aliens have taken over the world and there are only a few surviving humans left. There's a lot of different things that have happened with humanity. It's very dangerous. And so our main character meets this very powerful alien was fighting this other group of aliens. She was traveling with a friend and her friend's daughter. Her friend died and her daughter gets taken by this group of people. And so she's on the quest to save the daughter with the help of this alien that she also met. Through that, we discover more about what the aliens are, what really happened during that time. It was a very fast read. There's a lot of action, but there's not much depth, not as much layers as well, as I would have liked with the characters. And then the second book is Monster in the Oasis. This one is also a 3 stars. I felt like this one, the writing is a little bit better, but the plot was lacking. I felt like there wasn't really much happening. I wanted the same thing with the first book. I wanted a little bit more growth with the main characters and their relationship. Because the first book was very, very long, I did get growth with the relationship of the main characters. But with the second book, we're still in the same world, but we're following a different couple. I needed it to be a little bit longer, just a little bit more. Just a little bit longer and just a little bit more of the characters themselves and them getting to know each other. It just happened to me a little bit too fast. And then Immortal with Scars. This is my favorite of the series so far. I don't know if there are going to be any more books in this series. I really enjoyed this one, especially compared to the first 2 books. The writing has improved much more, but I think it's also because there is not much world building anymore. We're still learning more about the world because specifically with this book, we are following a main character that is a different race from the aliens that we have met in the first, or what that we know from the first 2 books. So he's still an alien, but he's like a different race from them, or a different type of alien. I feel like the writing improved also because of the perspective that we're following, because of the type of person that he is. So he's like essentially their council of some sort, because there are leaders within the aliens. And so these leaders are in charge of their area, so they have to take care of that area. And he is the one that kind of oversees everyone else and makes sure that they follow the guidelines that they've had for years. Kind of something like he's way older than them, and so his way of thinking is different. His use of language is also different. So I think that contributed to how good the writing had become, or had to be, to really portray this character very well. The whole thing felt much more solid, as if the story has found its footing, because again, we have pretty much established where the world is now. It felt richer overall, realer, and I enjoyed and loved both the main characters separately and together. There was a lot of push and pull on both sides in different ways because of their standing, and that made the relationship even more meaningful for me. And I also love learning more about the hero, because again, he is different from the other aliens that I've known, or I've learned about from the first 2 books. I don't know if there's gonna be any more books in the series, but if it's going to grow from this 3rd book, I feel like I would love to read the next books in this series, especially if it's really gonna take from here the next books. So that is something I finished. I actually bought when my sister and I went to Olivia Rodrigo's concert, and so we had to be, the concert started at 8, gates open at I think 7, but because there was no seating, we had to be earlier. I think we got there at 1, so I was not able to bring a book for me to read. I had it on my phone, but I need to save the battery on my phone, and so I went and got a book, and one of the books that I got is Lemon by Kwon Yosun. Somebody suggested this to me on the Koreathon, I think, blog that I made, and they said that I would enjoy this one, and I rated this one at 4.5 stars, and I truly did enjoy this one. This is very short, 150 pages. So this started as the parasite meets the good son in this piercing psychological portrait of 3 women haunted by a brutal and unsolved crime. We are following 3 different characters that are related to this unsolved murder that they experienced during this time. So one is the sister of the girl that was murdered, and the other 2 are her classmates. It says here, it's a timely exploration of privilege, jealousy, trauma, and how we'll live with the wrongs we have endured and inflicted in turn. So the death of this girl, because she's pretty well known, especially because this was set in a small town, affected so many people. We see the effects of that murder to these 3 girls over time, but also the other people that were related to this case that were directly affected by this case as well, told from either the recollections or their interactions with these people. And this made me feel a lot of rage and a lot of frustration and a lot of realization that justice isn't served for a lot of people, especially for people that don't have resources to help them or just live in this society that is very unfair to them. And it's a lot of emotions in this very short book. It's very impactful. It's something that I probably will remember but it's one of those things that I knew just I would remember for a very long time, that I would love hearing people talk about, and I would love, reading reviews about, hearing what their take on it, because it's for such a short book. It really does portray the effects of certain things that we experience that are either brought on by other people based on their own personal experience, towards personal feelings towards us, that we experience because of the society, because of the community that we live in, and how that can destroy lives sometimes. How that could restrict your life without you not really knowing how much it can restrict your life and how much it really takes from you. Sometimes, a lot of times. So there's a lot of things to get from here. But the next one is a short story by Madeline Miller. This is 𝐿. Again, a short story of the retelling of 𝐿's story, or the Pygmalion from 𝐿's perspective. And I just wish this was longer. I rated this one a 4.5 stars, but I still connected and empathized with 𝐿 a lot, even though it was very short. It was like, I want to say 20 pages, and it's like a small book. I don't have the physical one, I have the library. It's very short. I can read it in one sitting. Absolutely. I wish it was longer. Finally, I got to reading the Gilded Wolves trilogy by Roshani Chokshi. So the first book is Gilded Wolves. I rated this one at 3.75 stars. I really enjoyed this one, but with a lot of heists, I find that I don't really particularly care about the heists. It's more of the characters that were here, the brilliant, smart characters I admire. But one of the things really with this one is kind of the characters. I felt like we didn't really get to know them as much or as well as I wish that we did. I wanted to connect with the characters a little bit more, but I still ended up really liking the characters. I just didn't fall for them as I expected I would. Also, there is a misuse of the Filipino word kuya that it got to me because it's a very simple word that I don't understand how it was misused. And then there's also an inaccurate representation of the Ilustrados in relation to Enrique's Filipino character. A lot of Filipinos have commented on that, and that it's not really an accurate representation of Ilustrados, that they don't really accept Enrique because he's half Spanish. And the Ilustrados, from the word itself, they are the enlightened ones, or they are the Filipinos who are very well educated. And when you're half Spanish and you have a Western education, especially with Enrique's background, he is an historian, a very good historian. He would easily have been accepted by the Ilustrados because of his educational background. It just didn't make sense that he wasn't accepted because he was half Spanish. If anything, that will make him even more accepted by the Ilustrado, because he would be seen as messed up as it was better because he's half Spanish. So just that. Again, I wanted to connect with the characters a little, and maybe that, because the misrepresentation here, maybe that affected my liking for the characters. But my favorite is actually Enrique and Zafia, so I don't think it did. Who knows, maybe it did. And then the second book is Silvered Serpents. This one I would rate about 3.754 stars as well. Definitely got more from this book. I definitely got more from this book. I have a few tabs in here. I only have 2, but the tabs are pretty much only from Zafia's chapters, because I really related a lot to her. She's my favorite character in Enrique. And with this book, I definitely related more with the characters, and I really enjoyed also the mystery aspect of this one, because there's a lot more of them needing to learn and discover for the quest itself. And it's not just, there's a lot of like puzzles that needed to be solved, and not just the quest that they need to do. So I really enjoyed that part. The Bronze Beasts, this one I rated also 4 stars. And again, Zafia and Enrique, they're my favorite part. There's a lot of things that happen in here as well, but the one that I remember are just Zafia and Enrique moments. They made the book for me. I love them so much. The ending, The ending was sad. It was definitely sad. But it kind of makes sense with how it ended. It hurts, but you know, that's how the ending was. So I don't know. I expected that I would love this a little bit more than I did. I would rate this an overall 4.25 this series, but I still really like this. Just not as much as I thought I would. So, and then we have a manhwa. First manhwa that I finished for this month. I actually didn't read this just in April, but this one ended this month. Lethal Romance by 𝐿. I don't know what that name is, but this is a YA fantasy romance, fantasy action adventure manhwa. This is set in a comic or in the manhwa world, manga world, whatever. And we're following the two main characters from the different genres. So the hero is from a shoujo or romance manhwa, and the heroine is from an action manhwa. And so they kind of collided by mistake. Their worlds kind of collided, although it's the same comic world. They're separated, of course. We have the romance high school and we have the action high school, and they ended up kind of merging together to school, but the main characters have already met each other, and it's just hilarious. They have these expected like tropes that they have to follow for their own like stories as part of like the romance manhwa or part of the action manhwa. The different side characters that are present, the different kind of progressions of certain plot points, plot twists. For the action, you have to have like different adversaries that are sent by like the boss of essentially the final boss that are sent to you that you obviously overcome. There is a like ball or like a party scene. There is that final showdown scene, of course. There is that, you know, the teaming up together of these two different kind of worlds to defeat one enemy. It's so funny. It's like, because in romance manhwas, people don't die. People don't die. So even though, you know, they're weak and they're not very like strategic, whenever they fight these people whenever they fight the enemy, they always come out on top with the power of friendship. It's so funny. This was so hilarious. This is so good. That's why I wanted to include this one, even though I didn't read it for the entirety of in April. I just love this one so much. I feel like if you enjoy manhwas, mangas, comics, whatever, you're really gonna enjoy this one. This was such a quick, fun read. I rated this one a 5 stars. Like, I cannot find a flaw in this one. Every single chapter has me laughing out loud so much. I wish it was longer. Another manhwa is Painful But Desirable by 𝐁𝐟𝐼𝐬 and Kim In-jung. This one I rated 4.25. So this is a adult romance. We are following a fake dating trope, or fake marriage trope. The hero needed to get married because his aunt, who has terminal cancer, wants to see him married and happy. And the heroine was liked the hero since they were in college. They're college friends. And she like convinces him that, you know, she can help him with whatever he needs. But he doesn't know that he actually thought that, you know, she was very indifferent towards him. That's why at first he didn't get like why she would agree. And of course they fell in love. And the title is definitely accurate. And although I like that the third act breakup was resolved very quickly, I felt like I wanted a little bit more angst, a little bit more pain. I just wanted to be a little bit longer. I felt like the hero needed to suffer a little bit longer than he did. It just happened too fast. And I like that it happened fast. It wasn't dragged on, but it was just add like a few more chapters in between of him suffering. I just want him to suffer a little more, you know. But overall, I enjoyed this. And then I will quickly go through all of the arcs that I read because I did a arc wrap up for these books. So The No Family comes out May 3rd. Rated this one at 3.5 stars. I enjoyed this one a lot. This has a lot of predictable K-drama cliche that I do enjoy. I didn't really enjoy the romance because there was like a vague age difference that they had. And overall, it just felt like it was very obvious that there were a lot of secrets going on, and I just couldn't get into the entire thing because it just felt like there was a lot of red flags that could have been picked very early on about this whole like situation, especially with the main character, you know, meeting this chaebol, like really rich family that she didn't know existed, and quickly being whisked off to Seoul. And it's just like there's a lot of things that I felt like she was being misdirected and that were hidden from her that just was like raising red flags, and I couldn't get into it because she was completely oblivious to it. So, and then the next one is Stardust Thief. I rated this one at 5 stars. I knew when I started reading this one I was going to love this one, and I ended up doing so. It is found family, but because we know that there are secrets that they're hiding from each other, it's kind of like you need to deal with these secrets first, you know. I love the characters, I love the world, I love the magic, I love the entire adventure. It's so action-packed. There's a lot of like different adventures that they have to go through, and I just really enjoyed reading this one. I'm so excited to get this one from a book box because I believe I'm getting this in a book box. And then Mount with You, I rated this one a 2 stars. This is coming on my 17th. This is about 2 former best friends who go on a summer road trip together in an ice cream truck, and I didn't like the addressing the reader narrative style that it had. It felt overall just surface level. I didn't connect with any of the main characters. I didn't really empathize with what the main character was going through. I didn't like them a love interest either. Like, I didn't really get to know them very well for me to connect enough and for me to care enough about what they were going through. There's a lot of non-communication, and then they also have, these different expectations from each other because they're very different from each other, and so they regard like relationships very differently. And because they don't talk about this, there's a lot of assumptions that they have that led to the entire mess, and it's just like, I don't understand. And they're supposed to be best friends too, and it's like, how is it that you're not communicating? And it was just I couldn't get into it. And then the other favorite from the arcs that I read is Beauty and the Beast by Lily Vale. This one is an enemies to lovers, Beauty and the Beast inspired, starring an Indian American teen. This one was so good. I was squealing and screaming while I was reading this one. I had a lot of fun. The chemistry between the main characters were so good. The banter was amazing. I love this so much. This was so cute. I love this one. And then the last book that I finished is Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. This one I rated 4 stars, and I really enjoyed this one. This was a lot of fun, very whimsical. I'm very excited to get to the movie. A few things that I was just a little confused about because the magic is pretty out there. There's not like hard and fast rules for the magic, which was fun still, but sometimes I get confused what's happening. I felt like there was a lot of things happening, but also there wasn't a lot of things happening. Like, there were things happening, but it wasn't really developing anything in my perspective. And so when when we reached the end and people were people off, and I'm just like, I need to see a little bit more than that. It was cute though, but I just I needed it to be clearer a little bit. So I enjoyed it though. Very whimsical. I had a lot of fun reading it. So those are all of the books that I finished for April. I didn't get to any of my TBR picks, so I will be moving that over to the next month, and I will be talking a little bit more about, of course, my TBR in my TBR video. That is it for this month's reading. It's a lot slower. Definitely I read a lot more shorter books, more manhwas. But yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your favorite books are for April, and I will see you in the next video.